LandWords is part of our Booked programme, which is our year-round Scotland-wide programme of festivals and activities, where we take the energy and the excitement of the festival in August in Charlotte Square Gardens and take that across the country so that audiences everywhere can access stories and books. A vital part of what we're achieving with Booked is not only do we take books, authors, great storytellers out to different parts of the country, but also we're collecting audiences' stories, and as a part of that, really trying to encourage people to celebrate their own places and their own stories. And LandWords has been an absolutely vital project in getting that show on the road. It's been a celebration of Calendar House, of the community in and around the Calendar Park in Falkirk, and through that just a celebration of all of our personal stories that might be left hidden or undiscovered or uncelebrated, and through LandWords we've really wanted to celebrate them and to shout about them to the public at large.
So we've been working with 12 girls from Green Line, which is just literally 100 yards that way. And initially the brief was to explore their connection to Calendar House, explore their connection to living in Falkirk. And then as it's emerged, the project has become very much also about what was important to them, what do they love, what are they passionate about, what frustrates them about where they live, what their hopes and their aspirations are. And so we've gone through a number of creative exercises over a 6-week residency to try and understand that and find different ways of telling those stories.
When we first came here, we knew nothing about the house at all other than the description that you'd given us. And you described it as this very thin house that seemed to be, it's like one long, and so I almost had a view of a kind of tall row of railway cottages. But when we came and saw it, it was just so amazing. And I mean, I love architecture anyway, so I could see immediately that it was made up of kind of several different kind of buildings. So to discover how these buildings were put together was fantastic.
First real kind of thing that hit me was just how it's like a microcosm of Scottish history, from start to present and on to the future.
Instilling in them the power of storytelling, really, giving them tools and kind of ways of pulling stories together, getting them to think of themselves as archivists of their own lives and their families' stories. Working here, working with archivists and having archives around to be in such a historical building, we were kind of looking at that idea of what makes it into an exhibition, what's kept, who's telling the story, what bits do we not see, so really kind of getting to think about their own memories in that way as well.
I love the story about the battle that starts in the kitchen between the cook and the kitchen maid, Belle, that then involves gardeners and ends up with just about the entire staff battling on top of the old Roman wall. And this isn't a story that we made up, this is a true story that we found along in the archives.
Hello, I'm Jill Arbuthnot and I'm a children's writer, and I've been at the LandWords Festival to talk about Frances Hodgson Burnett's Secret Garden, and I've been in this beautiful setting which is a secret garden, so it couldn't be more fitting. The book is about Mary Lennox, who is orphaned aged 10 in India and her family die of cholera. She's the most disagreeable child you can possibly imagine. She's absolutely horrible. And she's shipped off to live with her uncle, who she's never met, in a big house in the depths of the Yorkshire moors in the middle of winter. What made me realise was the sense of place, because there is this wonderful, vivid sense of Yorkshire and of this garden, and of the garden slowly coming back to life. And I do think a sense of place is tremendously important. It's something I'm always looking for as a reader. I want to be completely absorbed. I want to be taken away when I read a book. I'm not in the room where I'm reading it, I'm in the pages of the book. And so it's got to come very vividly alive for me, physically. And that's certainly a book that does that.
I'm Jerry Cambridge, I'm a poet. and an editor, and I've been talking about the poetry of Norman McCaig in a wonderful little outdoor workshop. He called a lot of his poems very self-denigratingly snapshot poems, or a particular type of poem, but they're rather more than that. And these are the type of poem you can just pick up. You can pick up his work and just look at it, dip into it, and find things that you like. If you don't like it, you move on to something else. He was very fond of small things. He loved modesty, and a lot of those qualities come out in his own poetry. Sharing stories with other people. Well, it's just part of being human, basically. It's a very human thing to do. We all share, but in the age of the internet, there's a lot of online sharing, of course, but there's not so much one-to-one sharing. So it's just human interaction in general.
Stories are at the heart of everyday life. Everyone's got their own story to tell, and when you talk to somebody and tell stories heart to heart, mind to mind, eye to eye, that's the best way of connecting. It just shows you right there what the power of a storyteller is.
My name is Sarah Sheridan, and I'm a novelist, a historical novelist, and also a crime novelist. I'm a SWAT.
What makes you a SWAT?
I love reading stuff, and so I love research. So the heaviest research books are historical novels.
I'm Janet Peasley. I live near Falkirk. I'm a writer, which means I write novels, plays, poems.
We were reading Sleeping Murder by Agatha Christie, which is the last Miss Marple book, last Miss Marple mystery, which, interestingly, Christie wrote during World War II in the Blitz, and she gifted it to her husband in her will because she thought she might die in the bombing.
Well, Alice Munro's book it's an interesting mix of biography and family history and memoir, and fictional storytelling as part of it, because you can't write a story about forebears without using fiction. You have to fictionalise it. It's an absolute necessity, and of course she does the same with the stories that are about herself, and she explains in the beginning that she's doing that, although I don't know that that's necessary, because there isn't any writer who writes anything who isn't fictionalising a lot of the time. In fact, anything that you write down you have to fictionalise, because you write it down, you're editing what has actually happened.
Well, at LandWords this year we were talking about sense of place. And this book is great for sense of place, and I think it really captures that sense of an era set in the 30s, and it's a young woman who comes back to Britain. She's born in India, she's lived all her life in New Zealand, and yet Britain is still home. And so there's that sense of where your home is and where your place is. And the whole book is her finding out what her life really is. Does she belong in this place? And she discovers her family actually have a connection to the place that she ends up living. And she finds out all kinds of new stuff she didn't know about her family. So who is she and where does she come from? Not just in a geographical sense, but where does she come from in a more broad kind of sense. So that really fascinated me.
I think it speaks to a lot of people. And we're currently in a period at the moment when the idea of immigration and the movement of people is causing a fair amount of stress in the world, and stress for those who are having to move for very good reasons, and stress for those who feel that their homelands are being invaded by too many people coming from other airts and pairts. And what is important about this is it shows that, and it will remind people that it's natural for human beings to move. Borders are completely false. The land doesn't actually belong to anybody because they've said, oh, this bit's called France, or this bit's called Britain, or this bit's called Canada. It's not anybody's possession. Over the history of the world, these borders have shifted and changed, and stretched to accommodate whoever needs to be accommodated.
I think as well as the people that have been involved in it, practitioners, and as Cassie was saying, the authors, and artists, what's really been inspiring is the people that have come to the event. We did drop-in workshops that I'd seen a 19-month-old painting a protest board, to the youth theatre doing a rehearsed reading of an Alan Bishop play, to 200 odd school children coming for the schools day that we had to participate in craft activities and various workshops. We've had family events, we've had events that pull in George Wiley talks, and just a huge variety and a huge demographic of audience that, again, we couldn't have done that on our own. It's this partnership that's allowed this to happen, and it's really fantastic for us at the Trust that we brought those different people into the house and engaged with artists and high profile people that we wouldn't normally have that access to.
And you know, in a very selfish way as well, I feel that I see this place differently. I'm a commuter. I travel between Glasgow and Edinburgh every day, and I'd never alighted at Falkirk High and saw what was just round the corner. So it's, for me personally as well, I feel that I've got my own bit of Falkirk history, my own Falkirk memory to take away.
That's a good end.